But I'm just so I don't know if you all know this bit of history, but we're in this mode now where we're preparing for Brahma Baba's Angelic Day on the 18th of January. So Dedi Janki was really great at connecting us all with Prajapita Brahma and telling stories, getting us all making Baba and Mama real. She was really very, very good at this. So I don't know if you all know this, but in Hyderabad, that's where Shiv Baba's morally began. So Hyderabad in the province of Sindh, which is now in Pakistan. It's like north of Punjab, that area. And Brahma Baba, as you all know, was a very wealthy person. And just like kings would have like a separate palace for the queen and like a separate palace like that. So he had built a separate house for his wife, Yashoda. It had just been built. So I listened to his sons, and I'm going to try and interpret this into English at some point. But his youngest son had recorded an interview with Deda Ramesh, and he was explaining that, that bungalow itself was like 50,000 square meters. So you're talking about large areas. So you can imagine this is just a second, like an additional house. And in that was also a temple because they were so committed to their devotion. So if you imagine the scale of this, and because it was bigger and newer, it was actually in his wife's name was Yashoda, so Yashoda sister, and it was in her house that the Murlis began. So that's where everyone gathered. So that house began to be known as Om Mandali, the gathering of Om, where they began to chant Om. And then Baba's, where Brahma Baba's house, so it was just, these are just next door to each other, they're not far from each other. So Brahma Baba had his own bungalow. So that is known as Baba Bhavan. And this was known as Yashoda Bhavan, the wife's bungalow. So this is how they began. And that's the seed, the root of the Yagya. Then the following year, they moved from Hyderabad to the city. Hyderabad was like just a village. And they moved to the city, to Karachi. And there, again, Baba bought, or maybe he already had, a house of his own, which was on the coastal side of the town. And by then, the gathering had grown to 300-400 people. So he bought 6 separate houses. Now, they call them bungalows. What we call a bungalow in the UK means a house with no staircase, a house just on a ground level. But what they call a bungalow in India, it means a mansion. So Daddy Prakashani would explain that each of those bungalows you could have about 80 to 100 people sleeping in. So these are quite large mansions. And they had 6 of them and 400 BKs living together in those. And Mama was the supervisor of these 6. But Baba lived the other side of the city. So that was Baba Baba. Now, the different centers then expanded in the 50s and the 60s. But no one was allowed to call their place Baba Baba, because that literally meant Brahma Baba's Baba. So they can be called Shakti Baba, Panda Baba, like other types of names, but you couldn't call it Baba Baba. Now, when Dali Janki, well, she had to be persuaded to come to London, really, because she was a senior daddy in India, and there was plenty to do there. And nothing really much happening in London at that time in 1974. But Jayanti Ben's family requested her to come. And Didi Manmohini and Daddy Prakash Mani, they said, okay, she can go for 3 months. Even after they said it, she still didn't really want to come. So she asked to meet Babdada on her own. And so Daddy Gulzar sat in Baba's room in Pandavada. And Baba used to sit on the floor in those days, Avyat Babdada. So she sat on the floor, and it was just Daddy Janki and Babdada in Baba's room. And she had a personal meeting to discuss all this with Baba. And she, of course, loved meeting Brahma Baba in his days in that Baba's room. But then after Baba became an angel, they were meeting Babdada in that Baba's room. That was where so the Murlis from 1969 until 1977, they are spoken in Baba's room in Pandava. So the Murli class would have only been maybe 40, 50 people. And then it was 1978 that the meditation hall was built, which is the other side of the courtyard with the steps, where Baba's next to Baba's hut. So that was then the biggest hall. Oh, yes. No, they also had the history hall. So sometimes Baba did come in the history hall. But otherwise, he was mainly coming in Baba's room. And anyway, just sitting in Baba's room was something that Lady Janki loved. She loved it. So if you can bring in your mind the picture of the translight that's there, that was the only one made like that. And it was only in Panda Bhavan in Madhuban. And so her questions to Baba were, well, if I go, then I won't be able to sit in Baba's room. And she was concerned about things for her own progress. Yeah, she was thinking like that. So Baba said to her that you will get a replica of this Baba's room there. So then she asked Baba that can she have also this same picture made? And Baba gave permission, and then Betty and Didi gave permission. So for many years, that translite picture in Pandavavan, that was only available also in Daddy's Bhavans in London. So these were the only 2 places with that translite picture. So then in 1981, they bought a Bhavan in London, and she asked Baba that could she, because she had such memories of meeting Baba, could she call it Baba Baba? So Baba gave her permission. So where Ranjan Ben and I took knowledge was the first Baba Baba since Karachi. Yeah. So our whole sustenance and our whole memory line that I hope is being conveyed to you daily is of these times where we used to go in the morning for Amrit Vela to sit in that Baba's room, that Dada said is the replica of the Madhavan Baba's room, with Devi Janki. She would sit at the back of she had a seat in the corner of the back of Baba's room. And then next to her was a space on the floor where Sister Janti would sit, Amrit Vela. And because Sister Janti didn't sleep in the daytime, she was very tireless. She would go from the morning right until 11 p.m. every day. Daddy gave her permission to wake up at 4 a.m. So she would only come into Baba's room at 4:15 a.m. So Sister Janti used to come and sit next to Daddy. And she was a trance messenger, so I'm not sure. Maybe she would also go into trance. So Daddy, I think sitting next to Daddy also helped the vibration there as well. So we had many years of sitting in this atmosphere. And we used to also go in the evening. And after, when I was older and I could drive by myself, I used to go also most evenings to sit. Lady Genki was very particular and strict about 7 to 7:30 meditation. So everything stopped. She would just go and sit in Bama's room. No, nothing. She wouldn't meet anyone. She wouldn't talk to anyone. She wouldn't do anything else. Amrit Vela, morally, evening yoga, pretty well protected. So I used to go and sit. And when I was little, Ranjan Ben used to go for mothers morally to Baba Baba at 11 a.m. And mainly Sister Sudesh used to read that one. And then Daddy would meet people. So just to connect that, what we're trying to convey really is, and I hope you will feel you're not missing out, because we had a particular connection with the Baba Bhavan that was connected with the original Baba Bhavan. And a soul who was there in Karachi with us. And that sustenance, we didn't know, of course, that all of you, we would have this opportunity to then convey all of that. But happily, I can remember most stories. I can remember most things. We've got some recordings, of course, as well. But it's this thing of conveying the sentiment and the feelings that are there. So one thing that, like I was recording this morning, is sometimes many Brahmins, you're either connected to a center, or you're far from a center, or, different centers, they've also got teachers with different levels of experience. And you might not, sometimes after a while, it has to become more like an institution because it's big and that rules based. And so you can sometimes miss the sort of personal feeling that we had with the daddies and they had with Baba and Mama. So like this point this morning about looking after your parents, and this is why I was sharing the story that I was. And there's a nice circular thing. If I can find the video, I'll put it up on WhatsApp, that the story I was telling this morning about Daddy was always very, very keen that Ranjan Ben and I live together, that we look after each other. And she used to always say that it's just mother and son in name, but actually they're friends who help each other move forward in knowledge, in their efforts. And the final time that Daddy gave a class at the London Centre was August 2019. And the very final class was a Sunday morning. And the very final message she gave to everyone was what Baba was saying this morning. She was saying, you've all got to fulfill your duties. You've got to look after. And she would mention Gizzy Ben. She's a teacher in the London Centre. And she has children that are disabled and others. So she was giving her example. Then Shashi Ben has always had she has a centre in her house. And she was a mother and she was working, and like, great example of balance. And the third person she called was me. So she called me up, and there's a little video clip. If I can find it, I will share it with you. And she's shaking my hand like that. So there's a nice circular story after 25 years where she felt very satisfied. And she said that this is a precious child of my beloved Baba, who, with his faithful intellect, has made his mother careful. So she was very, very happy about this. And this is so why I'm conveying these things is, like I mentioned about Daddy Prakash Mani this morning, First thing she asked the brothers, "Are you the eldest son?" First thing, she hasn't even met their parents. She's thinking about their parents. So we have to understand the values that are behind the moral. That it's not just, sometimes when you just read it, you're thinking, oh, I mustn't have attachment. I mustn't, but actually, it's not that type of renunciation. It's not that type of sannyas. It's a type where we're caring, but we are breaking away our internal dependencies. It's like our emotional dependence. That must transfer to Shubha. So that is the type of detachment that Baba is talking about. But of course, many BKs are in different places, so they might not know this. And if they're just reading the moral, it will just be their interpretation. So what these experiences do, they clarify, I think, what's the meaning behind these points in the morally. So why I began showing that, Lynette, Ben, would you agree that that's sort of what these classes contribute? Anyone else like to share, or Ranjaben, if they want to say?
Oh.
Go ahead.
Oh, it was Salwa Ben wanted to say something. Brother, you're so right. I have always found that this journey is an individual journey with Baba. Yes, we need the family, and it has to be practical. And I always felt that Baba never wanted us to be estranged from family. Um, be with the family, and they often say, be with the family. And you're right in saying we have to be detached. Because the whole transformation process comes with not creating any um, negative situations or feelings or vibrations. So it's always that I try to keep in mind, although it may happen from time to time, because although my intention may not be there and karmas are involved, but it's to always be able to create vibrations from me going out there that it doesn't warrant any negative feedback. No, karmas will determine that. And I have always, we look at the daddies as the examples, the practical examples, and you were fortunate, and some of you others would have been fortunate to be in the company of the daddies all the time. And I remember when going into Madhuban, I remember Sister Mata does this instrument sister for the Caribbean. She always had this thing, and I didn't realize it then, is that she wants you in front of the daddies. She wants you in front of the daddies. And it was my first visit, and I was in the courtyard, and Daddy Prakashmani was there. And Sister Mata was actually pulling me to go in front of Daddy Prakashmani. And I felt that it wasn't right to want to take always the attention, because there was so much people always wanting the attention of the daddies. And it's now really, I realized, really, especially Daddy Prakashmani, you had more with Daddy Janki, but for Daddy Prakashmani, there was always a love that you felt in her presence. And for Daddy Janki, I always felt that she's looking inside you to see what you could clean up, always looking to see how to improve. But for Daddy Prakashmani, it's after I recognize really, maybe in my consciousness, tying them back to these gods and goddesses, that now I realize really they are gods and goddesses, and how much you can get from them, how much you can get. But also not in just getting, because sometimes we only keep taking and taking. And that's why for me, and I've said it before, sometimes it's difficult for me to ask Baba for anything. and it's the independence, probably it's the ego, because I feel Baba has come to empower us. And he has said in the early Murlis when I've listened, he said, we're not beggars. And that thought always stays with me. We are not beggars. And to be able to understand that we have the power is how do we bring that to the forefront? How do we use this power? But saying that as well, I do recognize that I do need help from time to time. But it's a little bit better now in asking. But for the beginning, it really was difficult for me to ask. Because I think throughout my journey in Lokic life, I don't think I've ever asked God for anything. I always thank God. I would always thank God. Thank you for this. Thank you for whatever is happening. But I've never asked. And now I have found myself asking sometimes. I'm still hesitant in doing it because I feel it takes away from my immersion, the power that Baba is saying that I have. The power. I don't know if you understand what I'm getting at, but is that I feel if I have to depend, it takes me away from immersion. A power that Baba has said that this is what you are, child. This is what you're capable of. And I feel it retards me from moving to the higher level because I have a dependency syndrome within me. And while it is dependent on God, I feel I need to make more effort to not to have to depend on God. So I'm not too sure if I'm making sense with this concern.
Yeah, you make sense, but I sympathize with your journey. I think you and I have similar natures in many, many things. And I think I've shared this with you all before as well. It was 2017, Daddy Janki visited the UK and she was at the Global Retreat Center and I was at Oxford University at the time. So Ranjan Ben was staying there with me and it coincided nicely that Daddy was visiting the Global Retreat Center, which is about 3 miles south of Oxford City. And so it was convenient for us to go. And in that gathering, she again was so happy to see us. She made a comment which was very, like you're saying, she was very perceptive, knowing what's inside of us. And she was looking at our virtues, but also I knew this was a teaching at the same time. So she said, Ranjan's speciality is Mera God. She knows who is mine. Shailen's speciality is Mer God, who am I? So what you're just saying, I think you're in the category like me. Your foundation in your Brahmin life is this dignity and self-respect of who are you. But since then, my journey has been, because I understood, I know Daddy Jenkins. So when she says that, I know what she's hinting at. What she's hinting at is that both of them need to move the other one a bit more. And so my journey since then, what's that, 6 years ago? So 6, 7 years has actually been to move. So I would say that I'm now reaching the point of becoming much more miracle. So I understand what you're saying, but I think your journey might also be more in that direction where we probably have to move away completely from feeling that it diminishes us at all to be depending on Baba. And there's a narrative that runs through Sufism and Sikhism, which I think embodies. Now, with Bhakti, we've got to be careful because when you have these narratives, they don't have the full knowledge of the soul and the supreme soul. So those of you that are familiar with very popular writings of Rumi, he talks a lot about becoming annihilated in God's love. So I become so lost in God's love. I'm annihilated myself. I finish myself. So you get this sort of narrative in Sufism where you're like, you are nothing anymore. You cease to exist. Now, Baba doesn't go down that route because he explains to us that the soul is eternal, the supreme soul is eternal, both always exist individually. So this is why he is cautious about taking us down this bhakti route. But when I had met Dedi Prakashmani once, this was back in 97, I shared with you all that story when Dedi Jemki had sent me with the tie-pin to ask if the Madhuban Nivasis would like a tie-pin. And I was just in the office with Dedi Prakashmani and Dedi Ishu. And Ishu Dedi said, no one in Madhuban wears ties. Why would he want to buy tie-pin? And so then it was just like an excuse just to chat. And I'd asked Dedi Prakashmani at that time. She was sitting right just opposite me in the chair. So it was a very intimate scene. And she said, I said to her, how did you become a good instrument? Like Baba handed over to you. And so there's something about you as the instrument. And she said that Daddy has no consciousness of art. So it's like a knowledgeable version of what Rumi is saying about this annihilation of the self. And it's not the annihilation. If we say annihilation of the self, it becomes factually untrue. So, but it's the annihilation of the ego, the sense of self. So what I saw in Dedi Prakashmani and Dedi Gulzar, so these are the two daddies that Brahma Baba handed over his two duties to. So running the yajna he handed to Dedi Prakashmani, being Shiv Baba's chariot, handed over to Dedi Gulzar. And I think in both of them, they just never had a sense of self. Like other than being the soul, being Baba's child, the things that Baba teaches in the Mahana, there's no other sense of self. They haven't had to deal with their ego. They just never had it. And we were talking the other week about Devi Nirmala as well, and not having any fear. So I think perhaps this might be your journey, of just completely like having such intoxication. That's been one of the themes this week, hasn't it? That we develop such intoxication about Baba, the connection with Baba, that actually we no longer need to even think about our drama. So we don't have any sense of self. But our consciousness is so dominated. Like Brahma Baba was teaching us about praising Shiv Baba, like this ruhan, this spirit to spirit conversation, that he no longer needs to think about this drama down here. But it's just this ruhan that's going based on the morally points, this high intoxication. And this is like an annihilation of the self. So I'm working towards there, but I would say that this has been a change for me since this blessing stroke teaching that Devi Janki gave 6 years ago. And I can feel within myself this change where I think I'm becoming totally dependent on Baba. So it's this journey of not liking to be dependent on anyone, to actually becoming like the lover, becoming the bride. It's more of the feminine. There was one class, Ranjan Ben might remember, you were telling me once Janki Ben gave a class, and she was remembering Jagdish Bhai. And she was saying that actually, I think she might have been reading the Morally, and it comes up in the Morally that we have to become Sitas, brides of Shiv Baba. Shiv Baba is the bridegroom. And she was commenting how this is more difficult for the brothers to do. But she remembers that Jagdish Bhai, so Dada Jagdish was the senior brother of the Yagya from the 1950s, and he left his body in 2001. But he was very much the service coordinator of the Yagya. He was based, the head office at that time was in Delhi, and he was based there. And she recalls him having this ability as a brother to just be a bride, like with Baba, and not having this sort of male, because it's like we can be even in a sister's body but have a masculine nature, can't we? Because like it just can be our nature, or it can be like the roles we've played make us more masculine. So I think a soul who has this more masculine nature, they can find that more difficult to just let go and be dependent. But Baba wants us to have all relationships with Shiv Baba, because only when we have all relationships with Shiv Baba do we have all virtues. There's a connection between all relationships and all virtues. So if you observe in yourself some virtues are missing, or they're like less developed, and other virtues are more developed. Let me continue with this example of masculine nature. That in a masculine nature, the virtues of strength and independence and decision making, these types of things, protection, these types of things are more developed. But the qualities of relying on Baba, the qualities of, like you were mentioning, seeking help, the qualities of like being in a team, like having more of a group mentality rather than individualistic mentality. These are less. These are more in the feminine side. The qualities of like the nurturing, the more gradual nurturing, maybe more relationship based rather than achievement based. So these are some qualities that are there. And it's as we connect with Shiv Baba in those relationships that actually we balance, we develop those other qualities. So I would say in myself, I'm seeing much more dependency on Shiv Baba to achieve them. You want to, Sullivan, you wanted to come in?
Shanti, Divine Family. I'm
Oh,
happy to
shit.
be with you again. I'm still at work, but I finished, and I'm having a good time with you, Baba, my family. I would like to add one thing that comes to my mind when Sister Ambika was talking about this relationship with the self and Baba. There is a sort of supplication or sentence we would say in Islam called Rabbi la takilni li nafsi tarfat ayn. Oh God, don't leave me with myself alone, a cling of eye. Is it a good translation?
Sounds good.
Yeah. I'll try to translate it because my English is quite limited, but actually for me this when I ask God not to leave me with myself alone, a cling of I, it makes me able to live this balance that I know that I have the self, but I want to be with Him. not even while the moment my eyes are, clinging, we say. The verb is right?
Yes.
Yes. And for me, this is how we can achieve this balance of being with the self and being with Baba, because he would teach us how to be ourself. He will, his role, he exists so that I can be myself. Otherwise, I wouldn't find myself if he was not here. So that achieved this balance of being with me and being with, because otherwise the ego will come. If I am not with Baba, my ego will come again. So now in Raja Yoga, I understand better this supplication. Ya Rabbi la takillini nafsi tarfata ayn. Don't leave me with myself alone, even while I'm blinking my eyes. Om Shanti.
Unfortunately, yes, I think that's nicely explained. And it's for me, you see, what Baba says is follow Srimad, and Srimad is the protection for our own ego and things. Like, it's not, there's a part of us that we can't trust ourselves totally. So if we're just saying this is just me, but we, like Baba was saying this morning, you are in the Iron Age, so your degrees have depleted, so you can't totally trust yourself here. And part of the dependency on Baba is this acknowledgement that I can't trust myself totally. I need these boundaries. So Srimad is the boundaries of purity, pure food, the routine, Amritvela, morally, and so on. Now, what that does, it protects us from our own ego. So just by following these things, that is also a dependency, because I'm saying I'm dependent on your Srimad to keep me safe from myself and from others too. So this is why we have that. But then I think we also got to appreciate the joy of the partnership with Baba. And we don't want to miss on this opportunity. Okay, I can do by myself, but then I'm only limited to the capacity I have now. Like you said, Baba will help me to discover more capacity. But then also, by working with Baba, using Baba, working with Baba, partnering with Baba, I am suddenly accessing a whole new capacity. Like they have these shows on television where ordinary people can think of a business idea, and then they can pitch to the millionaires, like the investors. I'm sure you have this equivalence, like they call them Shark Tank and this type of program in your countries. And what these programs show is like you got one with very many resources, with very many contacts, with a lot of experience. And then the other is with the idea, but not with the resources, not with the contacts. And they are the junior that needs someone senior. And it's nothing shameful in this. There's like nothing shameful. This is just the way to make something grow. Because, okay, I can do it by myself, but then I just stay a small business. But if I want to make my business big, I partner with a big investor. And this is what we're doing with Baba. So sometimes Baba says that he is the investor. He's the big investor here. He is the big shareholder. He is the big business partner for you. He is the big insurer for you. So he is like your underwriter. He makes things like people will not trust a small business, but if you've got a big partner, then they suddenly will trust in you more. So he is the insurer. He is the underwriter as well. Now, there's no shame in this. So it is a case of, well, together we can grow more. So Brahma Baba always had a slogan from back in his childhood days. And he used to say this in classes. So Daddy Janki used to say it to all of us, that 1 + 1 make 11. Not 2, but 1 and 1 is 11. And so me and Baba is not just 2 of us. Me and Baba is like the effect of 11 of us working together. So what can we not achieve? And so let's make the most of that. So it's the beauty and the joy of this partnership as well. So I think over the years, I'm getting better and I'm continuing to increase my experiences of that. Thank you. Would anyone else like to say anything or comment? Ranjan Ben, do you want to say anything? Yeah, carry on, Solomon.
Yes, please. I have my brother one question about what is the reason there were some retreats for brothers and some retreats for mothers and some retreats for Kumaris. Why was it still now important to create specific retreats for specific status? You know, why was it important? Because I feel that Gyan is talking to the soul, and the soul has all these roles inside.
I think it's a couple of reasons. So firstly, different societies have different values, and you'll know as well in Morocco that some societies, they don't like the men and women mixing like that. So, for example, if it is just a mother's retreat, then they can go. But if it is a mixture, then the families also will have a more of a problem with this. So if some of it is to accommodate that people are coming from different cultures. And so then we have some classes where everyone is there and some classes where it is just women only or like that. Then other reasons is more to do with role modeling. So if you are a single young sister, then to just be in a group with other young sisters who are also similar age, also maybe trying to understand knowledge, thinking, do I want to commit to this? Do I want to live in a center? So they might have a similarity of issues. Similar with, if they have a father's retreat again. So I think there's a level to which even the informal conversations in the lunch times and the tea times, they can also be helpful because of the role modeling of people who are from similar background. And they also tailor the classes towards that. So where I even saw it with the senior dadas in the past, where if they're meeting a group of mothers, the anecdotes that they give are linking for the mothers. So you hear this also in Morley's. Like I say to you sometimes in the class that by hearing this Morley, I can tell Baba is speaking to a group of mothers, or Baba is in Delhi, or Baba is in Mumbai. Like I can tell because Baba will adjust the examples towards the group he is meeting. Sometimes he's talking to the teachers and he's telling them it's a certain tone that he is taking, because it's like more instructions. But like today was definitely householders were in front of Baba. And you see, we sometimes don't have the dialogue as well when we read the Morley, but maybe like we heard today, the section about looking after parents, it's possible someone asked Baba, what should we do? And we don't have that bit in the Morley, but we just got Baba's response. So it allows the questions that are pertinent for that group. I had one experience of this in 1997. So the Morleys we're hearing on Sunday, they are now from 1997. And I was one of the first people to go in one of the first retreats. So it was November 1997 was the first very large retreat in Shantiban. So they just had, you saw that Baba opened, last Sunday was the morning where Baba opened the big diamond hall. And I was part of the group that was the first 8,000 retreat, 8,000 people. And it was Kumar's Single Brothers retreat. And Dedi Janki wanted me to go to supervise the group. It was only a small group of brothers from outside of India. But all the other 8,000, they were from inside of India. And so she wanted me to support them and do the interpretation of that. And so I went for that. And okay, generally the classes were all very good and powerful. That was all fine. But then they had a question-answer session with Dedi Prakashmani on the final day. And I think it was one of the most memorable classes I ever attended. And they put a microphone, and these Kumars were asking very, very practical questions. Like, we go to the temple with our families, and then at the end, they offer like the fruit to everyone, and in the temples, they like distribute some of the holy food, and it's all vegetarian, and it's all like, it's usually a sweet of some sort, or some fruit of some sort, or a little bit of water that they've offered to the deities, and everyone is expected to take something. Should we or not? Like, it was very, very practical. Or at the temple, after the ceremonies, they bring around the tray, and everyone puts money in the tray for the temple, for the offering of the deity. Should we do this? Or like, if there's some like earthquake in our village, or some calamity in our village, should we be contributing to this, or should our money only go to the center of this? So very, very practical questions. And Dedi Prakashini was always very good at giving very direct answers. So I can still remember, like, from that day, she was saying that if you're in the temple and it's like a bit of fruit and a bit of water, you should take it. Because we have to respect. And if you have a calamity like earthquake or something, or your community needs something, you should be the first person to be given, because your community is looking after you. Your job is to look after your community. And so she was very, very like clear, because otherwise we can interpret Srimad as something else. But she was giving very practical Srimad. And because she was the head of the Brahma Kumari, she can give the instruction. And so that I really appreciated, that it was only the Single Brothers, because they were able to ask very specific questions. And when I hear the Muralis, I also have this sort of image of what it was like, that there was very specific things that they were asking Baba. So I hope that answers the question. Thank you.
And also, I think, because if husband and wife and they're together, or and wife might hesitate to ask questions. If they're only mothers, they all have, like we have in common. It's like, and then it's easy for them to ask, or otherwise. And also we are family, so we can get to know each other, like, so that's good as well. Otherwise, you'll just go with your own relatives and you won't get to know. And so that way, and also some Kumaris, are more want to share. So Kumaris also, Baba and Mama wanted to, or Dadis, they have specialism because Kumaris are free to go, can do something. So also, and some who want to surrender, so they need to know the rules, regulations, and those who are experienced Kumaris, they could give them solutions. So, because here you just can't surrender. You have to know what is required of you, what difficulties you become, how. So that's why, it's important. Or sometimes father has to stay and, they have other family members who are not on knowledge, but they could look after the children. So the wife can go, and then vice versa. If then the brother can take turn and the wife can stay. So all that is taken into account. And for Kumars also, there's separate instructions. And also, so they can ask openly, easily. If there are other family members all the time together, they wouldn't feel comfortable to ask.
Yeah, good points. You want to say something, Salma?
Yeah, I was really just saying yes, it makes sense because actually it's really like school-wise. It becomes really a school. It's not anymore. It's to learn. So it's for the purpose of teaching and learning. It's not anymore a matter of a family. It means that it's individual, and yeah, I can get it. Thank you. Thank you.
Anyone else like to, any final questions or any final points?
Yeah, brother, I would like with the group here in Agadir in Morocco, we study Emirli together in the morning before we start our work by WhatsApp, and the brother joins us from Serbia, Brother Michel. So one of the questions that are now hanging up is we are churning this in scriptures. How can we understand this story of Noah and Adam and his two sons? And it means they are asking, actually the students are asking, okay, but how can we understand these stories of prophets? Noah with the arch, Adam with his two sons, Abel and Cain, and someone who killed the other. And well, my response was, actually there are good metaphors for us. We are these people. You are Adam. I am Adam. But still, I think that they cannot really detach from the story, the image. So any way to make the intellect wider?
I agree with you. So no, I don't think there is. It's just like, this is why the daily study helps understand bit by bit. But I agree with you. I think they're metaphors. And one of Bada's themes that comes up, he talks a little bit more about Sri Krishna because his audience was mainly Hindu, but it's the same sort of principle that he says how they took Krishna into the Copper Age. Like there's so many stories about Krishna, so much worship of Krishna, yet no one in India says he is the first prince of the Golden. Like, it's remarkable. Like, we had this theme, haven't we, about the butter and the buttermilk, and Baba saying that in Hinduism, it's just the buttermilk is left and the butter is gone. And Shiv Baba has to come and give us the butter again. Because, okay, you got the person is there, the name is there, the image is there. But if you take Krishna into the Copper Age, then like you're saying with Adam and Cain and Abel, you're then bringing the vices into their lives. You're then bringing the conflicts and things, because these scriptures were written in that time. So many of these scriptures, they are reflecting more that current society of that time. The stories that Baba refers to, like the Mahabharata, the stories of the Pandavas and all of that, these are all metaphors for our journey, Adam and Eve leaving Garden of Eden, and for all of these are metaphors of our journey. But what Baba says is, until you know the correct identity, time, occupation of each, then you don't know. So it's not that Adam had Cain and Abel, and then they had this murder and all of this type of thing happening. But the soul of Adam takes rebirth. And when that soul of Adam, or the soul of Sri Krishna, is in the Copper Age and is in the Iron Age, then these stories do happen. Like, we are all, right? So, but once you stop looking at these prophets and these deities and these religious fathers, we're not soul conscious. So we look at them as like a fixed bodily being, rather than that this is the soul. So it's true that the Sri Krishna did use the vices, but it's the soul of Sri Krishna that used the vices when he came in the Copper Age and in the Iron Age. It's wrong to say Sri Krishna used the vices. It's true the soul of Adam might have had children in future lives in the Iron Age where you have these conflicts and things. All of that is possible. But you can't say that the angel Adam or Adam in the Garden of Eden has this. You can't say, because there's no vices there. So because we lost our soul consciousness. Oh, you okay, Simon? Yeah.
Sorry.
You dropped the thing?
Yeah, sorry.
The camera. Because to us it looks like you fell, but I think it was just the camera that fell. But very good. You also gave metaphor of what I was saying, that we fell in the cycle. So your timing was also very good. So a good drama. What you got is Baba makes us soul conscious. This is the key to understanding everything. And what the scriptures have lost is this soul consciousness. So it is true that we are angels, and it is true that we are deities, but it is also true that we have all the human failings as well. And so when we now look at the stories of the scriptures, like you're saying, it is like a mirror for our cycle, that this is the journey. But all of the different saints and things that wrote the scriptures, Baba says they have the Rajo intellect. They don't have the Sato intellect of Baba now. They don't have the Iron Age intellect, the Tamo intellect. They got sort of in the middle. So they got some things which is brilliant, like some of their insight is brilliant, because they were Rajo, they were some part Sato. But they're limited because they're inside of the drama. And when you are inside of the drama, you can only see from a section. You can only see the full drama when you are outside of the drama. So only Shiv Baba is outside of the drama. So he can see the full, like the full cake. But when you are inside of the cake, you are only seeing your slice, or your section of the cake. So each of these prophets, each of these saints, each of these rishis, they are telling us in the scripture a section, but the morally is the whole. Is that satisfaction? You want to, you have to unmute yourself.
I'm sorry. Yes, brother, it's very clear. And as you said, the key is the soul consciousness. It's unless you feel yourself a soul, you are stuck in matter. You are stuck in the image. And you're so, and as you said, it takes time. We spend 63 years in body consciousness. Yeah, so we can't expect that this the body consciousness will fade, but still it's once you have it, it's for good. I don't know how. I don't know. It's once you, it's either on or either off. It's either you are soul conscious or body conscious. I don't know why it takes 100 years for Adam to come back to.
Well, I think it's more learning everything. We got an opportunity to learn everything. Like we can learn the basic very quickly. But like you're saying, you're also talking about details there. And to learn all the details is what takes us time. And what we're learning is we're looking at these things just with the spectacles now of knowledge and soul consciousness. And this is what changes everything for us. So we're no longer looking at, like, even we are looking at these as past, but we know those people in the past are now here somewhere else, in another body. We're looking at ourselves. We're not just looking at this current self. We're looking at ourselves in 3 aspects of time. So it's just this completely different way of looking now. And it's that where we want to have this time to learn everything. Because in no other time will we get the opportunity to understand all of this. So this is why it's just opportunity, and also there's still more Baba's children to come and study. So this is why it will take time, because they still have to be born and study as well. Thank you, sister. Okay, I think let's stop there. Shall we finish with a few minutes meditation together? So we've been talking about soul consciousness, so let's take ourselves into that stage of soul consciousness. So just visualize the sparkling light in the middle of your forehead and tell yourself to forget the created identity of the body, the social identity of the ego, and just let it go. Remind yourself that you are a soul. And as a soul, you are a lover of God. This is your main identity. And take yourself into that great love you have for Shiv Baba and his great love for you. So you connect your mind with the ocean of love, Shiv Baba. And you realize that it's actually this love that contains all of the answers. This is the essence of everything. This is the essence of knowledge. when everything else is finished, what is left? God's love. This is the essence. So let's just spend 2-3 minutes just merging our mind in God's love and forgetting everything else. And let's just remind ourselves, it's time to return home now. Return back to that original love. Shanti. So thank you very much, those of you able to join us live. We really appreciate it. Thanks for your very pertinent questions and stimulating the discussions. And also warm greetings to those of you tuning in later on through YouTube. So we'll see you. Have a great week. See you again soon.
Shanti, have a great week to both of you as well. Thank you so much for everything.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. Shanti.